Hey, advanced sculpture students, we are going to look at making some pretty cool paper mache based critters. Things to think about. So this will take us till the end of the trimester. One, I'm not requiring you guys to paint these, just build them and finish them paper mache. If you go beyond that, then cool. But the requirement is to have a freestanding 3D paper mache something. I'm going to say something because we have two avenues we can pursue here in a second. I wanted to show you guys, so I got some stuff. I have costuming and how people can build and texture and do all that. And this is using like foam and things like that. But we can do some costuming with paper mache product. All right, good place to set all this. We'll try that. The base design that we do is based off of this stuff. These books are by a former teacher, now artist, called Dan Reeder. It's actually the same book, just one version's old and one version's new. And we'll look at some of the images inside of here. Dan likes to do dragons, so he has a book that is nothing but dragons and how to make them. So we'll look at that guy. And then I found this book a while ago that is paper mache, and it's the thing I like about it is it uses cardboard to help support, and we might have some cardboard left to make these kind of paper mache kind of designs inside of what they're doing. So we'll take a look at that too. First, we're going to go over to look at this one. So I'm going to share a screen. So I just showed this to sculpture class. And this is a piece made by Dan. And so we're going backwards in time. This is his finished piece. So take a look at these pieces here are polymer clay. All of those little tips, all those little bone pieces and teeth and fangs are all polymer clay. The eyes are made out of glass. And then the rest of this is paper and cloth mache. So all of these scales are individually made. The tongue is paper mache and parts of the lower body are paper mache. One of the things he does is he uses a lot of masking tape. So this is masking tape and this is the starting to cloth mache. And on this one, he really doesn't do too much paper mache. He does almost all cloth. This ridge is created just by him pushing the cloth together. And when looking at it, the cloth mache is done similar in the fact that you're using a thin piece of cloth. So I passed out for my drawers this year. I got a bag of rags, but this is like t-shirt material and it's nice. The nice thing about using cloth in this method is that when I scrunch it up and I make wrinkles, when it dries, the wrinkles stay. Sometimes in paper, when I scrunch it up, instead of making kind of billowy wrinkles, the paper wants to flatten itself and kind of fold, and it layers down. Paper is great at laminating, holding some details. You have to work with it to make these kind of details. But this is just you can use old t-shirts or old bed sheets work nice too. Bed sheets can be a little stiff at times depending on them. Don't use the real expensive brand new bed sheets. Don't go out and take your Abercrombie that you just got t-shirt. Look for old things that are going to be turned into rags. All right, so back to sharing. So when we look at this, this is Dan's website, and I'll put up a link to Gourmet Paper Mache. So this is his website. And he does all kinds of different little creatures. He is a retired teacher in California. He does like cats. He likes dragons. These dragon heads. So this gives you kind of a scale. Dan's an average sized person. So when you look at that, it's a good size kind of head. And he sells those things for about $2,000. He has 38 pages at least of people who take pictures of their paper mache and send it to him. Ooh, just saw a bink. Let me see. I don't know what that noise was. Make sure I got my chat up. Okay, so we're good. So some of the things that like he has a page where you can go through and look. This is a puppet. So there's the pose of the dragon. This is how he makes parts. Again, he uses a lot of tape. If you're doing strictly cloth mache, the tape doesn't matter as much. For paper mache, I find that the waxy coat on the tape tends to resist the paper mache sticking together. So here you can see it's segmented apart. And then he could attach strings to it and turn that into a puppet. Otherwise, he puts all of his things together into poses when he's working. I don't have this book. I've got all of his other books. So going in here, he started off doing this as a 6th grade teacher with his math students. It's kind of a reward and how to figure and do some calculations and make it more interactive. Now, when you look at his stuff, I mean, he's probably been doing this for a good 15, 20 years now. He started before he retired, and then he does this full-time when he retires. And he makes really nice, high quality pieces. What we're going to do, so part of what sells this is not only is it well colored, so here you can see this is with the lights turned on. He puts LEDs into his work now. It's not just the nice colorations that he gets to do with his things, but it's also how he builds it. So he doesn't just leave a big gap in here, and he doesn't just cut out the eye. He actually looks into how are these ridges going to work to this? How does this design sculpt help add to it? He adds gums, and he has his teeth in there. He has his tongues projecting out. So when he's building his pieces, he's really building up all the surfaces. He's using all of the sculptural advantages of working 3D in his benefit. So not just a painted hole, but an actual hole in the nose. Not just a neck, but kind of wrinkles in the neck to give you the idea that that skin flexes in there. Scales that have gaps in them or scales that overlap. Little pieces of texture added in different spots to make it visually more appealing as we're looking at the pieces. And a lot of differences. So here you've got like a wrinkly neck, and here you have a more scaled neck. Here you have little bone protrusions or little spikes coming out of the back and all down the head, and you have spikes down this part of the neck, and then across this back you have a different set of ridges, different kind of like little horns or antlers coming off of each one. Turns to the head so that they are interesting and moving. So part of this comes into the idea of you can make a full creature, or you could make something that is a mountable piece, or even something that becomes a headdress or something that you could put over the top of your head. So full creature or just a part. I am looking for you to build something that is, again, it has to be freestanding. So the wall mounted, you'd have to figure out, how would it, if I set this down, would it stand on its own, or would it want to tilt from one side or the other? So if you need to put a base to it, we need to put a base to it. If I'm going to wear it, how do I keep it on my head? How does it stay there? How can I move my head while it moves around? And then he's kind of showing you off some of these. So this one, 2,500 for this guy. And I think that guy's probably about 18 inches tall. 2005 for the Buddha, also probably about 18 inches tall. Oh, these were sold. This one's for sale. Buddha sold. This dragon, this Maleficent head sold. So, I mean, he's making good money off of making paper mache. If you click here, you're going to go to videos of his work, but I have his YouTube page, boop, boop. And his YouTube page is also Gourmet Paper Mache. And I showed the Naga to the other group. I'm not gonna show you guys. You guys can take a peek at any of the videos you want to in here. He has bunches. These are all time compressed videos, so it's not a really how-to other than watching what he does. Some of the things that are inside of his little videos. So this one, paper mache, he uses flour-based paper mache. I like the Elmer's paste that I gave you guys because to me, one, it's not going to draw bugs, and two, it's just, it stays a lot longer. You saw him do some paper mache, and you see how thick that paper mache was? We'll go back a little. A little bit more back. Always careful when we cut. Oh. So you can see this is the cloth mache. The cloth mache by its nature is going to be thicker. These are folded over pieces of cloth that he pre-cut, dips into a white glue and water mixture, and this will stick to the masking tape. You can see the layer of masking tape, and then you can see probably 5 or 6 layers of paper to make that shell. The thickness helps in the fact that it's a laminated material, and it adds structural support to the entire piece. These parts that he's making, so now he's making little, so you see him cut across that piece. Now he's, those are polymer clay teeth, and he is making the dragon's mouth, and now he's kind of going through and making the dragon's neck. He doesn't use, this doesn't have an armature to it, so there isn't a coat hanger in there holding it because it's so small. He doesn't need to kind of force it through. There is coat hangers in those pieces, those little wing pieces he's about to make. The tail has a coat hanger through it. Legs will have coat hangers through them. And you can see how it's going to stand and hold its own. There he's starting to build the wings. Again, it's a lot of masking tape. I wouldn't use that much. I'd use little bits and the paper mache. So we know that once we paper mache, we have to wait 24 hours. So you can do 3 or 4 layers of paper mache at once and then let it sit. The cloth mache, not necessarily 24 hours, but you could you want to let it sit for a bit so that saturated cloth has time to dry out. Now, in this weather, as the weather gets warmer outside, like you could set it in your garage and it's gonna dry quicker. If you're using flour-based material, then you have to know flour is food, so bugs will be drawn to it. The paste that I'm giving you guys is not food, so you're safer. He does a lot of pre-painting to save himself time. We're not worried about painting in yours. We're worried about having a finished constructed piece. All right, so we're gonna stop him on that sloppy paint job. We'll just take a look here. So there's a finished piece that he's just starting to paint up. All right, stop that. Now I'm gonna pull out some things because I'll show you what I'm working on with you guys. So this is my guy. Hangers inside of the legs, so they've got support. Legs go into the body, hollowed out. You can see hollowed out in here, hollowed out body, hollowed out back shell. All of that hollowing takes away weight so that these legs can hold it in place. Now it's been transported and crushed a little bit, so I'll go back through and I'll rebend these legs. These legs don't look as bad. These guys look like they got kind of crushed, so I'll just bend them back, make sure they're making the right kind of contact with the surface, because I don't want his belly to touch. I want it to stand up. Got a couple of legs kind of like feeling out and around. I've used cardboard to make these kind of ridges because I don't want it to look like necessarily a real spider. I want it to be a kind of a freaky spider. I will say using, someone brought in and I traded them softer cloth for their, I can't think of what this is called. We were just talking about it in sculpture class. Oh well, it'll come to me in a second. This cloth though was really thick, and this is not paper mache. This is actually just cloth mache, so it's the glue and the cloth. This absorbed a lot of glue. It really kind of drunk it in, and that caused some issues. It caused issues in the fact that it was so moisture saturated that it was heavy, and it took it longer to dry. But here's the difference. So these guys' legs are solid, and you can hear. And this was paper mache, so you can hear. When I get to this, that's pretty solid. This is actually a cutout hole in here. I've got a little bit of paper to make that divot. So this side here, you can see where it's actually gotten crushed a little, and it's a whole hole. And then this side has the cloth mache over it. It adds a nice thickness to this. I started down here as a piece of cardboard, and you can see where I've left that gap for that one ridge here, and then this will be smooth. I use smoother cloth when I go across this bottom. I haven't decided if I want to make like a little, I've thought about maybe adding a ridge underneath it. Something where I could do a ridge like this. I have to be careful because when this dried, so see how it bubbled up on me? So I'm gonna have to break it, crush it to get it to reform. And then I'll have to put some mix under it, either cloth mache mix or paper mache mix to kind of force it back down. Just because it dried, popped out, and it's gonna mess with my body rigid here. I may even have to cut this piece and redo it. Putting this around in between the legs, that's why when I traveled with it, these legs didn't move. This is in here nice and solid because of that cloth mache. And this is just taped on this side and a little bit of paper mache. Paper mache up here held okay, but back here it just came right apart because it just couldn't handle that rigidity. Mouth right now kind of looks like a person mouth, yeah. So I'm gonna redo that head because I don't want it to look like a person mouth. And I'm gonna look for something to put in for eyeballs up here. This is a total of 2.5 days of work. 2.5 days in school last trimester working. So that meant I was helping students and I was working around the classroom while making this with them. So really my work pace, this is a total time of maybe 30 to 40 minutes total. I did some sketch work. I did the sketch work when we were brainstorming in class with students and kind of did that. And then I made some adaptations. Like I wanted to make these indents instead of just a round spider body. I just thought it'd be kind of cool. I started to move it a little. So instead of it being straight set of circles, you see it kind of curves a little to it, just to give it a little bit more body movement. So that's the one I'm working with you guys. Got my little treasure box down here. This is the art paste that you guys all have now. And we could mix this up and dip the cloth in this. the paste hardens pretty well, and the Elmer's glue will add some. Elmer's glue is a little bit stronger of a bonding material than the paste in here, but I think we could, and I'll try it, but I think we could use soft cloth, old t-shirt cloth, and paper mache mix to do a cloth mache. I think we could end up doing that. All right, how you guys doing right now? So far, I've been talking for 20 some minutes. Any questions?
I'm good.
Good.
I don't have any.
Don't have any? Kyle, I graded a bunch of your stuff this morning. Thank you
Yeah,
for
I
turning it in.
appreciate that. Thank you.
So, are you not working today?
Nope.
That's good. Well, I hope.
Yeah, I'm taking the week off.
Okay. Does your uncle think that things will kick back up on Friday? Like, will he have his employees back again, or he doesn't know?
Oh, no, everybody's still working. I just called out for the week.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's take a couple looks at these books. And we're just going to switch cameras. So, of course, it's all backwards. I bought this. I saw this and I thought, man, this would be kind of cool for class. And down here, you can see where they're using some heavier cardboard. And it's really like if you want to do like full costumes. And I bought it from an online thing, and the description wasn't the best. I don't think it's bad. It's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. So here we can see this is molded pieces, maybe some cardboard, and probably some moldable foam that they're using. And then I like all this because it gives me, so here's some different, these are all foam types. The downside is I'm having a hard time finding a place that sells EVA foam to high school people. Balsa wood, I got some pieces in here in the classroom if we needed it. The contact cement, it's a little tricky to work with. For us, what I wanted to do is I really wanted to look at, you know, we could make things like these for ourselves. And some of this base is really simple to do. Saran wrap around your arm, duct tape around the saran wrap, carefully cut said frame off, lay this out, and then we start to trace it. And really, they're making a paper pattern. And then I think they use foam to make their parts. But we could do this with cardboard and paper mache. It's gonna be a little bit heavier than what they're making. The foam's gonna allow it to be a little bit more flexible. We would have to cut relief spaces inside of the cardboard so that it bends properly. The nice thing is we don't have to use a heat gun. We don't have to use a Dremel tool to get all of this down. But we could do some costuming. We could make things like arm braces, leg covers, get this in frame, leg covers. We could make shoulder pads. We could make chest pieces. We could make an item to hold. So option one, we could make ourselves a costume. That's option one for the project. Option two, we make ourselves a monster. And inside of the Simple Screamer book, he actually goes from, so that's his introduction to who he is. Move this over a little bit so we get better. Putting together your paper balls, putting together your paper, make all your paper pieces, to paper macheing it, to making your little parts, Elmer's glue and just some water to putting all those parts together and finishing off the dude. So definitely could go ahead and make those. The nice thing in the back of his book, he has all kinds of little guys that are doing this process. The neat thing about this process is, you notice like the fingers are kind of bent funky. We only have 3 fingers per critter, 3 toes per critter. The bodies are kind of lumpy and awkward. You don't have to get really, they come out looking neat without having to worry about a lot of proportion and detailing. They're freestanding. They stay on their own or free sitting for some of them. Things like, I really think the snake is creative, how he's got it wrapping around, and then we got the bulge in the middle for the bird that it just ate. And then its nice little head there. But this is like one of his first books, even though this is the reprinted version of this book. Same thing, same guy. And I think, oh man, this is gonna pace me. This could be really old. 1984. Oh, so he's been doing this long enough that in 1984 they made a book for it. I said he likes dragons and different types of dragons. So again, the book is going through and how to put your pieces together. For this one, I really like how he does the armatures better. So just take a coat hanger, bend it out to make these shapes for where the arms and stuff go. And then when you want to bend those into a pattern, you bend them to put all the pieces together. And then again, still flour and water. And he even says cheap white flour. I would use that in place of flour and water. That and water will do great. We're going to mix it up in smaller amounts. And then just put everything, just put things together. He uses a lot of polymer clay. I don't know if you guys have any polymer clay. I don't think I gave you any, so we're not going to worry about that. So we can adjust in different ways. We're not going to paint them. We're going to make it to the finished put together stage, this stage. So just having our critters put together. This one here does some cool things in, so it's also using paper mache as your design medium, but it's not 100% straight paper. So I like how they're how they lay things out. So the first part of this talks about some basic shapes that we want to think about, and then how to layer things together. And the fact that when you're layering, you want to cross layer. That's going to add support to your laminated piece. They just put saran wrap over this large sphere so they can make a big piece. We could use balloons. You can use styrofoam balls. Again, they're using flour mixture. How they're going to cut things apart, you want to use that. We're going to use probably the carpenter's knives to cut things apart. If you have any cardboard or cardboard pieces, you're going to be able to use, not this one. This is just insulating foam. So we're going to be able to use cardboard, and we're going to be able to cut pieces of that. That's all insulating foam to make the hands. So we can make little freaky guys. You can make support pieces inside, and we can add cardboard rings around them. And then if you're careful, you're gonna be able to pull your paper mache across this frame. You don't have to fill it in all the way. You wanna make sure though, that when you're doing this, you're doing these long strips and not tight wraps, because tight wraps will tend to go flat where you don't have support, and where you have the ridges will pop up. So we need to kind of come across it. We can do cardboard supporting, where you put some circular ridges and then you come across it with the cardboard, and then we can paper mache just that area. If this is going to be a shell, something that you're going to use this to put your paper mache and then lift it off, we can cover that with the material and then paper mache onto that material, something that we know we can lift off. You can make an everyday object just in a different scale or a different way. So you could make a guitar person, so where the guitar is playing itself. Remember, your thing has to be freestanding or be able to kind of support its own. So whatever you want to do in your design work, however you want your design to go, just kind of like how the hippo looks there, and then finished hippo. This, we can obviously see it's freestanding. Even if it's not mounted on its little plate, it still would hold its own and look good in space. So what we're going to do first is we are going to work on our design, our concept, and then we're going to go from concept idea to sketch phase. Then we're going to work out measurements. How big are we going to think about making this? And then we're going to look at our details, and we're going to go from there. Last but not least, you could make it into a kind of a free-formed abstract sculpture if you wanted. So I would take that. What I'd like you guys to do this between now and Wednesday is I'd like to have 3 different sketch ideas of what you think you would like to make. On a sketch idea, give me a couple of different views, and make sure you're putting all your things together so that we have some solid ideas to make decisions from. Again, from design to end, this probably will take us until we're done with the course. Okay, any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Good, good.
Neither do I.
All right. We should hopefully this week finish up our wax clay little bust that we were making, get pictures all around and get those turned in. And then we should start to look through all of our pictures. And I would start now putting my pictures in Google Slides by project type. And I would go through all my steps that I can. And then that way you've got all this done and it's not a lot of work there at the end. Cool?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's all I got for you guys today then.
Sounds good.